Today we're going to start our chapter 15 on the British Isles and the Nordic nations. We're going to take a look around between section 1 is England, which we're going to do today. Section 2 is Scotland and Wales. Section 3 are the two Irelands, Ireland and Northern Ireland. And then section 4 are our Nordic nations of Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. So like I said, today we're going to start section 1 on England, and we're going to take a look at some just characteristics of the country as a whole. It's a nation that we know all right, but we don't know very well. And we're going to learn a lot today about England, the United Kingdom as a whole. And there's a video as well that I'm going to link in your email that you can watch on what's the difference between all of these areas. So by the end of the day today, you should be able to identify the major physical characteristics of England. You should be able to talk about or be able to explain why London became one of the world's greatest commercial and shipping centers. And by the time we're done, you'll be able to describe how the Industrial Revolution affected Britain's economic activities. So, the many islands clustered off the northwest coast of Europe are called the British Isles. The largest island in the British Isles and in all of Europe is Great Britain. The island of Great Britain comprises three formerly independent countries of England, Scotland, and Wales. Together with Northern Ireland, they form the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland are simply known as the United Kingdom. The core of the UK is England, and the population here, it's the most densely populated spot in England. Of the UK. It's also the most densely populated of the British Isles, and nearly 80% of the region's population live here. So on to its physical characteristics. Our England is a garden, declared English poet Rudyard Kipling in the late 1800s. Kipling was actually describing rural England with its green rolling meadows, peaceful rivers, and neat farms. The English landscape is actually made up of three very different areas. We have the Highlands, the Midlands, and the Lowlands. The Highlands are a band of hills that run the length of England's entire west coast. Older and harder rock formations in this region have been worn down by centuries of weathering. Even so, some peaks rise at 3,000 feet tall, and the land is very difficult to farm, as you can see here in the picture. A short distance to the southeast are the Midlands. Here lie very thick veins of coal that helped fuel the country's industrial revolution. Factory towns like Birmingham, Manchester, and a city called Stoke-on-Trent still darken the air with fumes from their mills. Heavy industrial development means that some of England's highest population densities are in the Midlands. And you can see here in this picture, which is very old, they've been fueling industrial activity here for centuries. Now to the south and the east are the rolling lowlands. The land slopes gently toward the English Channel, and elevations rarely top 1,000 feet. We have younger, softer rocks here that lie beneath the land surface. Because these rocks break up easily, soil in the lowlands tend to be fertile, which means that they're able to produce abundant crops. In these areas, we're going to find our most productive farms. Here, farmers grow wheat, vegetables, and other crops on very small plots of land, and they set aside larger parcels of land for pasture. The cool, moist weather of England's marine west coast climate is perfect for raising sheep and dairy and beef cattle. British goods are also sold both in the United Kingdom and in other European nations. Even before industrialization, England's farms produced surplus goods for export. Trade within England and with other European nations fostered the growth of cities along rivers and the coast, and of these, London was the most important. Why did London, with its inland location, become one of the greatest commercial and shipping centers in the world? The answer is simple. It's one of our 5 geographic themes. It's location. If you look at any map of England, you'll see that London is only about 70 miles from the continent of Europe. The city of Dover is even closer to the mainland. So a lot of people wonder why Dover isn't the English capital of trade. One of the main reasons is London has a big advantage over Dover and other southern coastal ports. The hills along the English Channel drop sharply, which form steep cliffs that plunge straight down to the water. And in contrast, London is located on the Thames River. Since the Thames Valley was formed, the level of Atlantic Ocean has risen, and the result is an estuary, which you talked about in South America. a flooded valley at the wide mouth of a river, so ships could sail directly up the port of London. As early as the 1500s, London was a bustling port, and one writer described activity along the waterways in this way. He says, "A forest of masts, huge square-rigged ships lay side by side, surrounded by barges and small craft. The boats had to fight to their landing places because there were so many." And here you can see the Thames River going right down the middle of London, and the famous Ferris wheel that is in London as well. So the Port of London grew very rapidly in the 1500s because of changes in patterns of world settlement and trade. The influence of the Roman Empire meant that the Mediterranean Sea traditionally had been the center of trade. Let's skip to the next one here. London remained on the far edge of European trade in the late 1400s. Improved shipping and navigational devices allowed Europeans to push westward across the Atlantic Ocean. So Great Britain's strategic central location on the Atlantic was ideal for trade. So as trade across the Atlantic increased, Britain's relative location improved. In the 1500s, Britain shipped mostly the products of its farms, but within its small area, the island nation had the resources to fuel the start of the Industrial Revolution. As ship owners and merchants earned profits from trade, they looked for new ways to invest their money. Wealthy business owners built factories to produce manufactured goods to sell to Britain's colonies, and as ships supplied the oceans were loaded with British goods, Britain became known as the working shop of the world. So some of the earliest technological advances of the Industrial Revolution were used in factories that produced textiles or clothing. British manufacturers first used water power to run spinning machines, but later switched to coal as a source of power for the steam engine. Major coal fields lay along the edges of the Pennine mountain range as well as the northeast near the city of Newcastle. Britain also possessed large reserves of iron ore, a rocky material containing a valuable mineral. Inventors improved methods of melting iron ore and using it in the production of steel. The towns of Birmingham, Sheffield, and Newcastle grew very fast in size as nearby coal fields made them centers for manufacturing. Coal supplies were so plentiful that the phrase "carrying coal to Newcastle" developed to describe an unnecessary action. Now, the Industrial Revolution brought wealth to Britain, but the factories and mines also changed the English landscape. English poet William Blake condemned the dark satanic mills for spoiling, quote, "England's green and pleasant land." A visitor to Birmingham in the early 1800s reported that the noise there was beyond description and the filth was sickening. So we've definitely had also some challenges to British industry. Britain's plentiful supply of raw materials and its position on major sea routes made it the world's industrial leader for years. But in the late 1800s, Britain was challenged by two new industrial powers, Germany and the U.S. By 1900, both the United States and Germany were making as much steel as the United Kingdom. In recent years, British industry has fallen upon hard times. Much of the area's coal supply was used up during the Industrial Revolution, and since the 1970s, Britain has turned to oil and gas deposits beneath the floor of the North Sea as a source for fuel. So despite their problems, Britain's overall economy has been growing steadily. To offset the loss of heavy industry, the government has encouraged the growth of tertiary economic activities, or service industries, which we've talked about way back in Chapter 4. Some of these service industries include finance, insurance, and tourism. Inflation rates have been low and unemployment has been decreasing. Though a member of the European Union, the United Kingdom has been reluctant to adopt the euro, which is the common currency system for the European Union. That completes Section 1. Have a good day.